Welcome to Africa News. Today we're talking about the presidential elections in Cameroon. The vote is scheduled for October 12th, when 12 candidates will vie for the highest office. You're the president of PCRN, the Cameroonian Party for National Reconciliation. Your candidacy was made official after a showdown with some members of your party. And when we look at your background, we see that you really want to embody a new generation of politics that stands somewhat in contrast to the politics practiced by your elders. What, in your view, makes you ready to lead right now?
Let's say three things, madam. The first is grassroots work. As you mentioned earlier, we entered politics in 2017. We were acting as foot soldiers at the time. Although our results in the 2018 presidential election were promising, we were aware of how far behind we were, or at least how far behind our predecessors in the political arena. So we get to work. Over the past 7 years, we have worked to establish the party. The second thing is the work that we have done in the National Assembly. We were elected in 2020, and we have worked tirelessly throughout our term. We have been able to address the problems of Cameroonians and provide solutions to their problems, even though we're only 5 out of 180 deputies. And then the third thing is that we have a clear political offer. We have published 2 books over the past 5 years. In 2021, we published our ideological work entitled Community Federalism, and a little less than a year ago, what I saw as the subtitle, the Manifesto of Rupture and Progress, which was a book of nearly 400 pages that some people have found overly detailed. But that was because we wanted to show our compatriots that we're going in depth.
Based on what you've observed, what you've heard, or what you've witnessed in the field, what would you say are the biggest failures you would attribute to the government currently in power?
You know, we've been governed by the same system for 43 years, and the results are there for all to see. There's mismanagement, financial scandals, road infrastructure that's completely ruined, a lack of energy, a slowing economy, and rampant unemployment. So they're out of steam. They cannot go on. They can't do it anymore. The people need something else. What we're interested in, madam, is a project for our country, because we believe that Cameroon has incredible potential. We cannot lack energy in a country that has a hydroelectric potential of 23,000 megawatts, the second highest in Africa after the DR Congo, and the 18th highest in the world. We cannot afford to lack drinking water in a country that has a potential of 21,000 cubic meters per capita per year, when the global average is 7,500 per capita per year. It is just not possible. We have a country that is still a reservoir of raw materials for world powers. But we've had enough.
You use the word federalism, pooling together, federalizing. Don't you fear that the opposition might end up scattered and fragmented when facing Paul Biya?
First, when you mention federalism, it resonates in a particular way in my mind because it fits in with our political project. We propose community federalism because we are a diverse country and are aware that Cameroon is sometimes referred to as miniature Africa. Now, to return to the substance of your question on the pooling of political forces, obviously, madam, this is a cry that comes up a lot from the grassroots. But I'll give you 2 fundamental points. The first is statistical. How about statistically and historically? That is to say, the first presidential election took place in Cameroon in 1992. And from 1992 to now, how many have there been? This will be the 6th, and at the end of each of these elections, the top 3 candidates have always won more than 95% of the vote. It means that Cameroonians' voters are rational, and that the multiplicity of candidates has never really caused the fragmentation of votes. Because Cameroonian voters, historically, it's a statistical fact, madam. It's about distinguishing the serious candidate from the one who isn't. So this analysis should lead us to qualify the narrative around the coalition. It's not so much the coalition around individuals that matters, but the coalition around vote monitoring. And the power that is in place in Cameroon is maintaining itself more because it is truncating the results.
You mentioned a little earlier, you referred to your Manifesto of Rupture and Progress, which lays out your social project structured around 11 pillars. Could you tell us more, and in particular share with us your vision for modernizing the economy and responding to the expectations of Cameroonian youth, who today nonetheless represent more than 50% of the population?
As I mentioned earlier, we have a vision for Cameroon. I'll summarize it in one sentence. Cameroon protects and unleashes energies. The economy, which I touched on briefly earlier, depends on industrial multipliers. We need to industrialize. We need to unleash the energies of agriculture. We need to stop importing what we eat. There are lots of people with innovative, smart ideas. They need financing. That is why we are proposing the creation of what we call the B2L, the Investment and Innovation Bank, which will serve young people. We must move towards plurinationality. Our compatriots are a vector of economic power abroad. The day that change comes to Cameroon, and I'm convinced that it will be October 12th, will be to our advantage. You will see that in the next 10 to 20 years, Cameroon will be talked about as an economic miracle.